Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today we are doing a rearrange the palette video. So I did this once before with Circle Loco. Actually, I've done this twice. So I did this with Metropolis and Circle Loco, and I've had such a good response to rearranging Natasha Denona's layout palette, so I decided to go ahead and continue it with the pastel palette, and I basically just showed you guys what the rearranged palette looks like. I actually had a lot of requests from you guys to rearrange the palette. So the palette looks just like this, and this is the brand new launch from Natasha Denona. It's her pastel palette, limited edition palette. I have an entire first impression up already on the channel. I will link it here, or it'll be in the description box, but you should check out that video if you're interested. But this is for us that actually purchased this palette, or for any of you guys who are not so into like the color story, the way it's laid out, and maybe you need to see it a little bit better. What I'm going to do today is rearrange my palette to my liking, how I think it makes a little bit more sense. I will say Circle Loco was one that I did this to, and I really 100% feel like I understand Circle Loco so much better after I rearranged it. So basically that's what we're going to do today. I also have an eye look that I created using the palette on my face today, and this eye look is going to be part of my 5-day challenge. So there will be another video with this palette. I'll be doing 5 different looks for 5 days straight, only using this palette to kind of get an idea of how versatile I really think it is, and that is coming very soon. But today's video is going to be all about rearranging the pastel palette. If you guys are excited, don't forget to hit subscribe, especially if you love Natasha Denona. I'm buying all of her new releases for an entire year straight. It is a continuation of a series that I did last year, and I hope to see you again. So let's go ahead, not waste too much time, and let's get into this, and let me show you guys my rearranged palette. Okay, so you guys know what it looks like. This is what the palette originally looks like, and I have to say, like, it's a pretty Easter egg, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a lot of colors kind of thrown in interesting places, and, you know, like, visually it just looks kind of cool. But, you know, when you start trying to think of like eye looks, this is where things can get kind of complicated, because you see a bunch of colors, but they're not really placed next to colors that I personally would feel like would be a complementary shade. I went ahead and rearranged my palette, and this is what she looks like. So this is my rearranged pastel palette. I will show you guys from my iPhone, because I do feel like the lighting does wash out this pastel palette a little bit. So my iPhone will probably be able to give you guys some better images of what it actually looks like. So you guys see it from my iPhone. I think you'll be able to see a better idea of what the palette now looks like. So what do you guys think? Do you think that my layout's a little bit more understandable, or do you really like the original layout? I mean, totally up to you guys. And also, you know, when it comes to these things, it's kind of like, how do you like to play with colors? What colors do you like to mix together? But this is the way it makes the most sense for me. So right now on the screen, I'm going to show you guys the actual shade name, so that if you want to rearrange your palette to look like mine, this is what you have to do. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. It's going to come up on the screen. I would say pause the video, take a picture of this right now, snapshot it, whatever you have to do in order to be able to see it better, so you guys can go ahead and follow along. So what I ended up doing was I kind of just popped everything out. So if you guys don't know Natasha Denona's palettes, you're able to get a paper clip, pop it through the back, and the shades actually come out, which is fantastic. So you could rearrange any Natasha Denona palette. And if you're not on YouTube, I would suggest you just grab a lot of your same size palettes and rearrange them however you like to wear them. And, you know, you can have different palettes mixed together, which I think is awesome about Natasha Denona, that you don't have to stick to one palette. You could literally create your own customized palette with every single one of her palettes, which to me, for the price point, I think is a huge plus, because I feel like for the price I pay for these palettes, I do want to be able to customize them if I want to, so that you could wear them for like any occasion. You could like create your own like palette. But with Circle Loco, one of the things that I did is I actually put all the mattes in one row and then all the metallics in another row, and I felt like that was really easy for my eye to be able to understand. So I tried to do a similar concept to that with this one, but also kind of mixing color families that I really like to use together. So if you guys can see, like on this side, I put like a lot of the purple and, you know, like reddish color families. I feel these mixed together could create a really, really cool eye look. And then as we went this way, we went more into the green and the yellows and the blues. Now, when it comes to the blues, I did think that this one right here on the end was interesting to put with it, because the shift that it does is actually to a blue. So using it with any of these blue shades would actually be complementary. You can't really tell by the actual color, because the color looks purple, but it has a strong blue shift. So I thought putting them together would make a lot of sense. When it comes to this side here, the reason that I really like this side is because I love the way like this kind of color looks with purples. So I feel like when it comes to this section, all of these shades here, mixing and matching them together would really make a really pretty eye. One of the important things with this kind of palette, at least for me visually, and the way that I like to create makeup looks is to just really understand the type of palette you're working with. And when you're working with a palette like this one, yes, you can create an eye look like I did today, which is an extravagant Easter egg of an eye. And yes, this is more editorial, this is more for imagery. Maybe not something that I would wear all the time unless it was like for a very special occasion that I'm wearing something very simplified and I want just really attention to my eyes. But usually this is not an eye look that I would do, right? So when I'm rearranging the palette, I'm rearranging it based off of what I would typically do. And I think a very typical idea when you're using a palette like this, when it comes to pastels, is minimizing the amount of colors that you put on your lid. So it was important to me when I was doing this to be able to put the monochromatic looks kind of in a row, because this is going to be primarily monochromatic. It's gonna make it look the prettiest. So like if you're using something like this deep purple, mixing it with this metallic and this light purple is really gonna make a really beautiful eye look. If you start trying to mix, you know, like this kind of color in, you're gonna start getting a little bit more complicated. However, it does work with like this Bellini. This color, I think it was called Bellini, does work really nice with the purples. But once you start going into like Brisk, which was this color here, which is more of a minty color, and you start trying to mix it in with the purples and stuff, that's where your eye looks are going to start getting a little complicated, are going to start getting hard to mix and blend together. So when I look at this, I look at it more as a monochromatic palette. I want to use like these kind of colors together. This will create a little bit more of a fiery looking eye, especially with this as the center shade. Yes, this is a little bit more pink, and this one has a little bit more of like that orangey color, but mixed together, they do a little bit more of like that sunset eye in a very pasteled version. Then here you got your purples, which create a very pretty purple lid. Then here, this one is interesting because this color Zest right here, this color, which is actually called Zest, is an interesting shade, but if you really look at it compared to a lot of the other shades, it's not really like the easiest to use with its counterparts. I do think that mixing it with any of these like greens will work. Also putting limoncello with it is a really good option because limoncello is a nice yellow, and this has a very strong yellow base. It looks more green in here, but I have to say the pigment is not that strong. So mixing it with a yellow definitely will make a pretty look. And then this right here is just a topper, but it does have like a little bit of a pinky shift, but it is white. So I feel like this one here is one that you could probably use with any of the shades. Like you could literally use this one as a topper on any shade. It has a little bit more of a pink, like I said, but it does work really well with everything because it's so sheared. When it comes to these here, you're getting more into the greens, and I wanted to put a lot of the greens more together. But here's the interesting thing. These greens kind of come off a little blue. So it's interesting. I do feel like these greens come off a little bit more blue. So that's why I put them next to the blue section, because really like when you grab this color Brisk, it looks really green on my finger, but when I put it on my lid, it's not that different than this color next to it, which I think was called Airy. So those two together actually almost look like the same color. So you could mix them together really easily. And also this color Mint Frost is a mix. Like it's kind of like a minty color with a little bit of blue in it. So blues and these mints, they actually work good together because they kind of within the same color family. They're not super green. So that's the way I rearrange this. To me, it looks and makes a lot more sense. Like I said, I'm probably going to be using this for 1 to 2 colors, and how it's laid out right now, I actually could use 3 colors together. But even in this section here with the greens, I probably would use something like this and put this like in the center, or I would use something like this and put this as a base tone. I would do the same thing with this, maybe put this as an outer edge and make this as an inner portion. I would do almost the same thing with this. Maybe on this one I could use all 3 because there is a very nice definition between all 3 of these. And then this one also I could probably use all 3 because there is a nice definition between all 3. When it comes to these two, I feel like 2 is enough than 3, but you can go with 3. And like I said, this color here, you can mix it in with anything. You could just mix it and match it, and these two together make a really nice pair. So that's how I rearranged my pastel palette, and I honestly think it looks and makes a lot more sense for me. But I want to know from you guys, do you guys think it makes more sense? Did I destroy my pastel palette, or do you guys like it? But yeah, another video that I would like to do is actually mixing the pastel with the Zendo, because even though I know a lot of people are saying that this would go good with Circle Loco, I actually feel like Zendo might actually be its complementary deepening shade palette. Like for those deepening shades, I actually think Zendo might have the shades that I'm missing. So I want to know if you guys want me to mix this with Zendo to like create like another kind of palette that you guys can do, especially if you have Zendo and you have this one. I will be honest, Zendo is probably one of my least liked Natasha Denona palettes. So if I could kind of customize and create a Zendo pastel mix that actually would work for me, that would be pretty interesting, because I can see myself not using this pastel palette that much, and I hardly ever use Zendo. So maybe that would actually make me want to use the Zendo more. So let me know if you guys want me to do that. But yeah, so that's the way I rearranged my palette, and I want to know from you guys, if you rearranged it yourself, how did you rearrange it? Leave those comments down below, and maybe send me an Instagram DM and show me your imagery of what you did to yours. My Instagram is Christina Brooke Beauty. Follow me over there too. I like to share a lot of stuff over there, and it's easier for me to communicate with you guys too on DM. So if you do rearrange your palette, let me know on Instagram. If you think that this was a good layout and you decide to do it yourself, also send me that on Instagram. I would love to know. I would love to know who actually feels like this is helpful. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I rearranged my pastel palette, and I'm actually very happy. I have not used it in this arrangement yet. I'm going to start using this for the rest of my 5-day challenge in this new arranged order, and I think it's going to help me so much more. Stick around for that 5-day challenge, and I'll give you guys an update on how well I think that the rearranged palette ended up working out for me. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to go ahead and hit subscribe if you have not already. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.